Waking up at 5 a.m. The first job of many young people in big cities in the US is driving Uber. At 11 a.m., they change into their uniforms, stand making coffee at Starbucks. At night, they continue their shifts at supermarkets, selling goods, packing orders until late at night. 3 to 4 jobs, every day, every week, no days off. Working until they are exhausted. They only have enough money to rent a house and eat casually. 2025, America, the world's #1 economy. And yet, a young generation is asking themselves, how many jobs do I need to survive in this country? Welcome back to Economy Roadshow. Today, we're taking a look at the multi-job crisis that's shaking up the American dream. How many jobs do I need to survive in America?
As according to the latest data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics in April 2025, nearly 8.4 million Americans are currently juggling 2 or more jobs just to make ends meet. Even more astonishing, on the TikTok platform, the hashtag 3jobworker, people who work 3 jobs, reached more than 100 million views in the first 3 months of 2025 alone. This is not just a trend, but a cry for help from the American working class, who are being pushed into a corner. The average rent across the United States has now surpassed $2,100 per month, a huge financial burden. Meanwhile, the federal minimum wage remains at $7.25 an hour, a number that has not changed for 16 years, since 2009. Let's do the math. Working 40 hours a week at that wage only brings in about $290 a week, or less than $1,200 a month, less than half the cost of rent. With that in mind, a single job only helps workers cover less than 60% of their basic expenses, forcing them to race against time and health to earn more. But the strange thing is that while Americans are struggling to make ends meet, the US economy is not collapsing in the traditional sense. GDP growth is still positive, and the S&P 500 index, a gauge of the health of the stock market, continues to hit new highs in 2025. So why are workers still struggling? This is the economic dilemma that is brewing. The prosperity of financial markets does not reflect the reality of real income. According to recent figures, real incomes of workers after adjusting for inflation have not only not increased but have actually decreased compared to the previous decade, making them unable to keep up with the rising cost of living. This situation is not just dry numbers. On social media, thousands of viral videos with the theme "My Day," waking up at 5, working 3 jobs, still not enough to make ends meet, are spreading, reflecting the exhaustion of the young working class. With rents soaring and the minimum wage unchanged, many are forced to work hard but still cannot escape the spiral of debt. This is a warning bell. The US labor market is seriously imbalanced, and the American dream, where one job is enough to support a family, is gradually becoming a thing of the past. By 2025, America will be sliding into 2 classes. Those who own assets, stocks, real estate, investments will be on the rise. Those who have 3 jobs, but no home to call their own. According to Federal Reserve data, as of June 2025, total student loan debt in the United States had exceeded $1.7 trillion. More than 44 million Americans carry an average loan burden of $37,000 each. The pressure to repay this debt has forced many families to cut back on essential expenses, including food and healthcare. At the same time, the average annual cost of healthcare has climbed to $12,500 per person, according to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. For young workers earning limited incomes, this creates a vicious cycle, working full-time yet remaining trapped in debt. The financial stress has contributed to a 30% rise in depression rates among individuals aged 18 to 34, according to the National Institute of Mental Health. This discontent is spreading into a wave of protests. Protests calling for a minimum wage increase, currently at $7.25 an hour, have taken place in more than 150 cities in 2025, with demands for at least $15 an hour, according to the AFL-CIO. But government policy has focused on supporting big business, with a $500 billion stimulus package approved in March 2025 to prop up tech giants, rather than directly subsidizing workers. This has created a growing gap. While the richest 1% of the population owns 32% of the nation's total wealth, according to the Federal Reserve, the bottom 50% of workers control less than 2%. The cost of living in the US is becoming an unbearable burden. Over the past 2 years, food prices have increased by about 20%, according to data from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. While gas prices in California have climbed to an average of $5 a gallon, the AAA reported in June 2025. Meanwhile, the federal minimum wage remains at $7.25 an hour, not rising with inflation, making workers' purchasing power plummeting. With such basic expenses, many families are sacrificing essential needs, from healthcare to children's education. At the same time, the gig economy, with jobs like Uber, Instacart, and DoorDash, offers flexibility but strips away basic benefits. According to the National Employment Law Project, more than 16 million Americans will work in gig jobs by 2025, but they are not considered full-time employees. This means no health insurance, no sick days, and no retirement funds. When risks from car accidents to illness come their way, they are left to fend for themselves, turning this freedom into an unforeseen financial burden. And then there's the American dream, the image of a comfortable life with a home and time off. That is slowly crumbling for millennials and Gen Z. According to Redfin, the median home price in major cities like San Francisco surpassed $1.2 million in mid-2025. By 2025, while the median wage for this age group is only about $45,000 a year, according to the US Census Bureau, the expectation of owning a home or having time off is now replaced by the harsh reality of getting by week without being crushed by debt. More than 70% of young people under 35 feel the American dream is impossible, according to a Pew Research Center survey in May 2025. This is not just a personal story, but a warning about a deeply divided society. With prices rising, gig work lacking protections, and the American dream fading, American workers face an uncertain future. The mental health and well-being of young people are at an alarming level. According to the latest McKinsey 2025 report, 46% of Gen Z and millennials admit to severe burnout, a state of physical and mental exhaustion due to work pressure and living costs. In particular, among gig workers such as Uber drivers or DoorDash delivery workers, depression rates are up 35%, according to data from the National Institute of Mental Health. These numbers are not just statistics, but a warning about a generation that is deeply hurt by harsh economic realities. At the same time, trust in the system is collapsing. According to the Edelman Trust Barometer 2025 survey, more than 62% of young Americans have lost faith in education, where they believe degrees no longer guarantee good jobs, as well as in elections and traditional finance such as banks or pension funds. This frustration has spilled over into new social movements: soft quitting, doing the minimum to keep a job, quiet quitting, refusing to work overtime, and anti-work, movement against a culture of overwork. These movements culminated in thousands of posts on Reddit and TikTok in June 2025, calling on the younger generation to quit the rat race. A clear sign of deep dissatisfaction, these movements are not just individual protests, but also reflect a changing society. With more than 80% of Gen Zers in favor of remote work or reduced hours, according to a May 2025 Gallup poll, young people are looking to redefine success. No longer about homeownership or a 9 to 5 p.m. job, but about work-life balance and mental health. However, this poses challenges for businesses and governments as the core workforce begins to turn away from the traditional model. In developed countries like the UK and South Korea, the trend of working multiple jobs at the same time is growing rapidly. According to the Office for National Statistics, more than 2.1 million Britons will have a second job by 2025, up 15% from 2023. While in South Korea, Statistics Korea recorded 1.8 million. Young people working part-time to cover living expenses, up 12% over the same period. Pressure from high housing costs, an average of £1,500 a month in London and £800,000 a month in Seoul. And the cost of education and healthcare are forcing workers to race against time, similar to the model seen in the US. But the problem doesn't stop there. Low-wage service economies, like the Philippines and Indonesia, are rapidly adopting the gig model, from Grab drivers to Lalamove delivery people, without adequate social protection. According to the International Labor Organization, ILO, in 2025, more than 5.2 million in Indonesia will participate in the gig economy, but only 10% will have access to health insurance or pension funds. This creates a vulnerable class of workers who work long hours, sometimes 12 to 14 hours a day, but still cannot escape poverty, with average incomes of just $200 to $300 a month in urban areas. This spread raises a big question. Is the current global economic model, with its reliance on gig jobs and lack of supportive policies, creating a generation of invisible workers? The OECD warns that without reform, the share of workers without social protection could rise to 40% globally by 2030. From the US, UK, South Korea, to the Philippines and Indonesia, the story is the same. The cost of living has skyrocketed, while labor protections have failed to keep up, leaving millions of people in unprecedented precarious situations. There's a saying going viral on social media: the system isn't broken, it was built this way. This reflects not just an income crisis, but the collapse of a model of life that was once considered a symbol of America. From having to work 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet, to the pressure of debt and lack of benefits in the gig economy, young people are trading their health, time, and dignity just to survive. The American dream used to be about houses, cars, and family vacations, an ideal that baby boomers achieved with a stable job. But for millennials and Gen Z, that dream is far away. According to the US Census Bureau, only 38% of young people under 35 will own a home by 2025, down 12% from a decade ago, while the average cost of buying a home in major cities exceeds $400,000. Instead, the concept of living well is now redefined. Avoiding overtime, finding small happiness in quiet quitting, or even giving up personal ambition altogether. This is a clear sign of a social model that no longer meets the expectations of a new generation. That is the reality that Americans, especially the younger generation, are facing. For foreigners, America was once a dream destination, a place where a plane ticket meant a chance to change your life. But now foreigners are starting to wonder, is America still worth living in? According to a 2024 Gallup survey, the percentage of immigrants in the US who feel satisfied with their current life has dropped to 54%. The lowest level in a decade. Nearly 38% of immigrants said they felt exhausted by the cost of living, job insecurity, and stress. And notably, 26% of young immigrants under 35 said they were considering leaving the US in the next 5 years, mainly for financial and quality of life reasons. The American dream for many low-income immigrants is no longer a light at the end of the tunnel. It is a shadow behind closed doors. America is still an economic powerhouse, but for them, it is a game where you always start from the bottom. In a globalized economy that forces workers to sacrifice more than ever, can we rebuild a new dream? One where health and dignity come first? That's a wrap for today. Thank you for watching. Leave your comments and subscribe to the channel for more interesting analysis videos.